name is Amanda Patiño, and today I will be covering the topic of sociolinguistics. So let's begin with sociolinguistics and the schools of thought. Before determining any relationship between the schools of thought of linguistics and sociolinguistics, it is important to define what actually sociolinguistics is. So, by its name, we could infer that sociolinguistics is a branch of the main science that is linguistics, and it deals with the function and the use of language within social context and within society. It has a lot to do with the pragmatics and the actual usage of language. Some keywords and key concepts that make us think of one of the schools of thought of linguistics. So if we talk about use, if we talk about function, then the main school of thought that we might think of is actually functionalism, of course. So we have that the main criticism that linguists and scholars made to structuralism and generativism was that they left aside the part of pragmatics and the part of the actual use of language and why people speak and communicate in a society. And functionalism takes that into consideration and brings topics such as and concepts such as appropriateness, the notions of register, the usage of language within certain social contexts, and that has a lot to do with sociolinguistics. So it is used to convey full ideas and messages, to reveal the self, to express emotions, and it is not only seen as a set of grammatical rules or as methods. It has a broader purpose, and that is why this school of thought has a lot more to do than perhaps the other ones. Let's talk about sociolinguistics and history, or the changes of language throughout history. One of the main ways to see the impact of sociolinguistics upon language in history is through semantics. There's actually a really interesting video, a TED video, that describes the origins of language, and in that video they propose two sentences. One is they gave us a hearty welcome, and the other is they gave us a cordial reception. So the two sentences are English sentences. They can be understood by any English speaker, and they convey basically the same meaning. However, the first one is more rusty, more tough, and the second one is more elegant and more refined. So in these two sentences, we could have an insight into what the history of the English language was. So we have, in this sentence, we have the impact of the Vikings, of the Angles, of the Saxons, of the Jutes, and that's why the sentence and these words are tougher, and they seem tougher. And here we have the influence of the French conquerors and their words, the word reception, the word cordial. So all of this had to do with social phenomena. We have this encounter of the Vikings with the Celtic tribes. This is a social interchange. But we also have, when the French arrived to England, we have that French was used in the high court by the social classes, the higher social classes, but English was spoken by the common people and the regular people. That is also a social phenomenon. And the same happens in Spanish. The high courts, the priests, the bishops were the one who used Latin, but the regular people, they took pieces of Latin, they took pieces of their Romantic tongues, and they combined it, and those variations became Spanish, became Portuguese, Italian, French. In its essence, the origins of language are actually sociolinguistic phenomena. And this aspect is highly related to the diachronic research of language. Through sociolinguistics and through the semantic changes, we can see history. We can see history, evolution of human events, but we can also see history and evolution of human language and human languages. The relationship between social linguistics and many other branches and disciplines such as anthropology, sociology, and social psychology. So this relationship could be seen as the Russian dolls we have discussed in class many times. So it's like a discipline inside of other, inside of other, inside of other, but they are all to some extent and in some aspects related to each other. So first we have anthropology, which is the study of human beings as a whole. So it's the study of human biology, of human culture from the era of the caveman until now. And then we have sociology, which is how human beings interact within society, the causes and consequences of social events and social phenomena and social movements. So after that we have social psychology, which is the way in which our ideas and thoughts and beliefs are influenced by what we believe, whether it is correct or not, that other people think and believe and feel. Seen as a funnel. So social psychology, social linguistics, they have that prefix of social, that because they come from this greater branch that is sociology and all that it derives. So it's like anthropology, sociology, social psychology, social linguistics. Now we have the properties of language and social linguistics. So perhaps the main property that social linguistics deals with is the cultural transmission property. So there are many studies that have seen how this cultural aspect has a really big impact in language. There's studies by linguists such as Winower and Boroditsky that talk about how, for example, a grammatical gender has an impact in the notion of certain concepts. So perhaps for a Spanish speaker, a car would be seen as something as a masculine notion, as a masculine concept. But for French people, a car would be seen as something more refined, as a more feminine touch because of the grammatical gender of the word. Productivity, as I said before in the talking about the history, it deals a lot with semantics. And for example, we have the word "foin," which we no longer use because we no longer carry swords around. So that word has been removed. But imagine all the words that are added to the dictionaries every year just because the new advances in technology. Now, regarding the two concepts of language, the two levels of language that are proposed in linguistics, we could say that social linguistics deals more with parole and not with lang. So parole has to do with the actual speech of language, in which ways people decide what to say or what not to say, and in which ways they say it. That's what social linguistics is worried about. Now, regarding social linguistics and the definitions we saw in class, at least for me, the definition that has more to do with social linguistics of all the definitions that were proposed was the one by Sapir. It deals with he says that it is a method of communicating, but not only communicating, but he also talks about ideas, he talks about desires, and he talks about emotions. As I said at the very beginning, social linguistics talks about the pragmatics of language, of using language to convey meaningful and complete messages, to persuade, to reveal the self, to express emotions. So to me, that's why Sapir's definition is the one that involves more social linguistic features. And now we have the concepts of idealects, socialects, deglosses, and bilingualism. And we have to determine if they all belong to the same phenomenon. If we're talking about using language in different levels and in different social contexts, then of course we could say that they are part of the same phenomenon. However, it is actually hard to determine it because they are all related among themselves. Let's take the example of a Scottish person. A Scottish person has their own idealect, his own expression, his own voice inflections, his own tone of voice as well. But his own individual idealect belongs to his socialect, to the regional dialect that is spoken in Scotland, along with the social hues that come with it. And that socialect is contained in broader language, which is English. And finally, we have bilingualism. So bilingual speakers might have their own idealects in both of the language they speak, and those two languages have their own socialects from their respective languages. So it's all a combination, it's all related. So thank you very much. I hope you have liked it, and you can check my references in the description below.